I need to build a stand for my tank light. The light is a 300 watt Mars Aqua LED. It cost $150. It has separate blue and white channels, each of which can be controlled by dimmers. Each channel also has its own outlet and power switch, which is nice. I'm going to make the stand out of 3/4 inch conduit, so I got two 10-foot long pieces, and I also got a conduit bender. The light has mounting brackets, and it came with these cables. I picked up some eye bolts and 3/4 inch brackets to attach the stand. I mangled the first two pieces of conduit because I was applying too much force to the handle of the conduit bender and I wasn't using the foot pedal enough. I calculated the free end height needs to be 29 inches, and so I'll measure off 23 inches. The first bend is a 90-degree angle. I just finished doing the second bend. I bent it at between 45 and 60 degrees. I kind of eyeballed it. I came to the conclusion that if I bend it at 90 degrees, then it'll come out too far. My tank is about 12 inches wide. There's a little bit of extra room on the table to move it around, but if I bent it at 90 degrees, it wouldn't sit in the middle of the tank. I drilled the holes 20 inches apart. Later I re-drilled these holes closer to position the light better. I threaded the eye bolts, and the next step is to use the brackets to mount the stand. I screwed a 2x6 to the back of my tank stand. And then I attached the light stand with these brackets. I could have cut the light stand a little bit longer. This is what the tank looks like from the front. The only issue is that because the light has large elements of different colors, it kind of casts a little bit of a rainbow in some areas. Here you can pick up some green and some red. So I'm not crazy about that, but I'm not sure that there's any way to fix it either. So the bar does bend a little bit, but because I have these eye bolts, I was able to adjust the height to compensate. I tried using this diffuser, which is for a fluorescent light, but didn't really do anything unless it was a couple inches off, and even then it wasn't very effective. So I think I'm just gonna have to live with the rainbow until I get a new light. I got this ball of Chaetomorpha algae. It's a macroalgae that people usually put in their sump, but I don't have a sump, so I put it in the main tank. The only reason people don't usually put it in the main tank is that it tends to grow pretty big, and people don't like how it looks, but at the moment it's the most interesting thing in my tank. It should soak up some nitrates and phosphates. There were some little copepods in it when I bought it at the fish store, but I think most of them died because it wasn't packed in water. We'll see. Okay, so here you can see what the white channel looks like. It's mostly these cool whites, a few warm whites, and then some blue, green, and red elements. And the fact that these elements are pretty large and they're not very tightly packed is the reason I'm getting this rainbow effect. So I'm gonna try and remove these lenses which are focusing the light. I removed all the screws on the casing. You can see the ballast and the fans, and next I just have to remove these internal screws. Now I'm going to try and remove the lenses for the red and green LEDs that I've marked with masking tape. Came right off. Pretty easy, they're not even really, they're lightly glued on. I bought some LEDs to modify my light. I got royal blue, which is 450 nanometers, and violet, which is 420. It turns out this was a mistake because most of the blues are already royal blue, which I didn't realize, and the violets didn't actually improve the colors very much at all. I used an Arduino running the Blink program to determine the polarity of the LEDs. When the LED is hooked up and working, the lead connected to ground is negative, I got some ping pong balls and cut them in half, and I used those to cover the red and green elements to disperse the light a little bit to reduce the rainbow effect. This was relatively effective, but not perfect. I picked up 4 coral frags from a guy I met off Reef Central. I got 2 chalice corals and 2 montiporas. I also got a piece of live rock, which I'm going to use to seed the tank with coralline algae. I floated all the coral and the live rock in the tank for about a half hour to get the temperature equilibrated. I drip acclimated these corals, but I've since stopped doing that for corals and I've had no issues. I'm going to use this insecticide to treat the corals. That'll hopefully remove any pests that might be hitchhiking on the corals or the live rock. So this insecticide contains a neonicotinoid and a pyrethronoid, both of which are wide-spectrum insecticides, and they'll be effective at killing crustaceans like red bugs as well as inverts like nudibranchs. The pyrethronoid is toxic to fish, so we're going to have to wash the corals afterwards, but these 2 insecticides should have minimal toxicity against the algae and the corals themselves. Here's the insecticide. I'm just going to add it to this water. And I'm going to use a turkey baster to agitate it, to blow off any parasites. And I'm going to let it sit there for about 15 minutes. I soaked the coral and the live rock in fresh tank water twice for 15 minutes each. I'm starting to think that doing the dip on the live rock was a mistake because I saw a dead copepod and a dead bristleworm, which I would have liked to keep alive, and I'm afraid that maybe a little bit of the insecticide is leaching into the rock and might be released. But we'll see. I think I'm just going to add it anyway. The insecticides should be degraded fairly quickly in water with light, and I don't have any inverts or anything in there right now, so it shouldn't be too big a deal. This is the Tyree blue chalice at the top, the Montipora spongotes, and the orange encrusting Montipora. And this is the Hollywood Stunner chalice. This is bubble algae, which I didn't realize was invasive, so after a couple weeks I threw this whole rock out.